It's way past time I dispense some indiscriminate justice!
G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the cold metallic world of Shakuras. We are apparently on a plateau, and this is going to be a very cool match. We've got a little game here between, I say little, it's a bit of a, it's an interesting word to use, but this is going to be between a red Protoss over here called BattleMan. We'll call him BattleMan or something like that, but maybe it's BattleMan, I'm not actually sure. Having a little bit of a chat here with his opponent. This was from ladder, I believe. And his opponent here today is RobotUniKwon. I'll be probably calling him Kwon just because it's easier than saying that whole thing altogether. Maybe I can call him Ruck. I don't know. But we'll see how we go. This is going to be, of course, on Shakuras Plateau, the new version of Shakuras Plateau. As you can see here, we actually have a ramp leading up to the back expansion, but no ramp leading up the back end of the bases. So there's no more of that little tricky push thing that Protoss and Terran like to do against Zerg. And of course, you did see it a lot in Zerg vs Zerg. Sometimes you'd see some very interesting pushes through that back. I actually have a couple of replays that's had that type of thing, and it was very cool. But anyway, this is from ladder, of course. This is actually submitted to me by RobotUniKwon. He's both these guys are sort of a high-level diamond players, both of them, so they definitely should be showing us some skills here today. Apparently there's some lag, very interesting. Both these guys have the caps lock activated, so we'll see if that continues. And apparently we're talking about Artosis and how we'd 6-pull all over his face. So take from that what you will, but we'll see what happens. We do have a hatchery going down for Kwon. He's going to take this natural quite quickly, as Zerg love to do on this map, especially on this map actually, because it is a little bit easier to actually take that natural expansion than on some of the other maps. But we'll see if he comes under any pressure from BattleMan, and we'll see if there's any sort of 4 gates or if there's any sort of early pressure from BattleMan. But we'll see what happens. He's got a gas, he's got 1 gas up, he's about to chuck down the cybernetics core. I would hope he's about to get it, and there he goes. Bam. Nope. There you go, finally. And we'll see what his plan is once we actually get some more tech up and running. But of course, Kwon is going to be getting his spawning pool and the extractor up at the main expansion, the main base, sorry, and we'll probably see some speedlings coming up pretty shortly from him. So recently, I actually did a very long Protoss vs Zerg between 2 high-level Korean players. Here today, of course, this will be a longer one in itself, of course. You should have noticed by now on the YouTube, the actual length of the video, that this is actually another long one between these 2 players. So we'll see perhaps a little bit of a difference in the styles, of course. As I mentioned, it is a little bit of a... it is perhaps a lower level than the Korean players that we had in the game between Lost and Goodnight. But we'll see what happens. As I said, I'm pretty sure there will be a little bit of a differentiation in the styles. There's probably going to be some a few different things that our Protoss player might pull out, and I'm suspecting that Kwon will pull out as well. And I'm hoping that, unlike in that previous game, there's some of the units which were a bit underutilized by Goodnight in that game against Lost. So droning up at the moment is Kwon. He's just getting all these drones powering out here at the moment, just making sure that he is getting a stable economy for the moment. Of course, 1 queen is now done here up at the main expansion, and the second one has just popped out at the natural, and the inject goes straight down. A little bit of an interesting thing if you're going to inject straight away. Sometimes it sort of depends on where you're going with your economy. It can actually be a little bit more beneficial, just perhaps it is very much player dependent, but it can be beneficial to actually just chuck down a creep tumor instead of the first lava inject at the natural expansion. Sometimes you can find that you'll actually have a little bit low on the minerals, actually, that's what I was looking for, to actually use all of the extra larvae that come out from the queen injects if you use them straight away. But he's definitely going hard at it at the moment, which is certainly fine. As I said, it's a bit of a player-based thing, and you can do what you want, of course. So speaking of doing what you want, BattleMan comes down here, puts a pylon down inside this middle passage here. The Zerglings do not actually, yes they do actually spot that. I'm a bit confused as to why Kwon hasn't actually gone across and taken out that pylon, but it's become a bit too late now. We do have, it looks to be a 4-gate. It is indeed a 4-gate on the way from BattleMan, so we'll see if Kwon actually has the ability to deflect this attack. It looks as if he may actually lose this pylon, but the Zerglings are going to be deflected by this small little Protoss force that is gathered here. at the pylon, and we'll see if he starts to push in another pylon going down to make sure he can warp in units even closer to the Zerg expansion. We'll see what Kwon's response is. Getting a couple of spine crawlers up, very good to see that. Getting a whole bunch of lings. This is what you want to do if you're getting 4-gated, is get as many lings as you can. Try and get a spine crawler or 2 up if possible, and then just try and do what you can against this attacking force. And as we can see, we actually have a force field going up on the ramp there from BattleMan. He's actually stopped any more reinforcing units from coming out of the main base, but there actually weren't any at all. And it looks as if this will be a very successful attack here. He's actually taken out a lot of those lings, and it looks as if this queen may go down. A little bit of beautiful micro there from Kwon, actually saving the queen for the moment. We'll see if she actually survives. I'm not really too sure if she's going to survive there. The drones have come along and are taking out the stalkers, which are just sitting there dealing immense damage to all of these units, but a lot of Zerglings have come out. It looks as if Kwon may be able to hold off this initial part of the attack, but it looks as if, as we can see, a couple more zealots and some 1 sentry is coming inside. So the queen is going to be in jeopardy if she does not get out of there, and it looks as if a beautiful force field going down in time to stop all of these drones and the queen from escaping up the ramp, and it looks as if the drones are getting hacked to pieces by these zealots which have come across, and the sentry is still alive, tickling them with the flashlight, and a couple more stalkers have also come inside. So the response now from Kwon is going to need to be a couple more spine crawlers, which he is indeed getting up here. We'd love to see a Hydra Den go up just so he can get a couple of Hydras out, because of course Hydras do great damage against gateway units. And we're going to see this natural go down. Going to need to get these overlords out, which he is trying to get them out as fast as possible. And I think I did see one. Yeah, there's a Hydralist Den. So we're going to have the Hydras popping out in just a moment, and Kwon should be able to hold this off. I'm thinking this is a bit too... this isn't a very heavy warp gate all in. Is he actually doing anything back at base? He's getting a second gas. He's not really building too many probes. If we have a quick look at the harvester count, we actually have 26 probes to the 19 drones, so it's not as if he's been totally powering along, but he's certainly got a heavy force that's now come inside the base here, losing a couple of stalkers and the zealot to very little gain there, but it looks as if he's going to try and hold them off for the moment. It looks as if the Protoss force is now starting to retreat. He may have had enough for just the moment, and if he actually retreats now, that would actually be really good for BattleMan. If he gets out now, he can capitalize on what he has gained there, which of course was the destruction of a lot of drones, a queen, and the hatchery at the natural expansion, and then pull back and actually make it a bit longer game, because he is certainly in a great lead right now. We'll see the Hydra starting to pop out now, which of course, as we mentioned, would do great damage against these gateway units. Zerglings coming down to surround the stalkers and the zealots, which are down here. Force field on the ramp blocking out the Hydras, but they have the high ground there, of course, which will help out in shooting these units from above. And the Hydra, one of these Hydras just went for a little bit of a walk there, but actually got lost, came back, and then they have taken out a lot of those units that were there. But there's certainly enough economy for BattleMan to actually warp in some more units, which I think he may do. He's finally deciding what he's doing. He's got a robotics facility on the way, so we'll probably see him start to tech up, and I doubt there will be too much more to this attack for BattleMan. But of course the Hydras, now that they've started popping out, will definitely be able to push back the attack. So we'll see what Kwon is going to be up to now. These overlords are having a party up in the corner. They're just cruising around and seeing what they can see over this the big river that surrounds this whole thing. Zerglings coming in to take damage off the zealots, and the Hydra sitting up the back, actually taking out a lot of those zealots there. They're finally starting to get a little bit lower in their numbers. Stalkers, however, will be able to deal with the rest of these Hydras, which are now starting to fall down. A little bit of a miss micro there, perhaps from Kwon, actually just losing a few of those units in very little actual purpose there, that he actually lost them. But the spine crawlers have decided it is time to get serious, and they have moved up to the ramp. The creep tumor, which has started up, is starting to move around and is going to provide them with a bit more space to move around on. But the natural is now being cleared out, and the Protoss forces have actually retreated back to the base. So beautiful little retreat here from BattleMan, just making sure he can get whatever damage he can, and then retreating safely. That's what StarCraft in these high levels, when you start to get to Diamond, that sort of thing, it's about making the right decisions based on how safe you are. So as we can see here, Kwon has decided, from the position that he's in, of course, he has to make a risk, either to expand, perhaps expand a second time. I'd love to see him actually have another shot at expanding again. That would be fantastic, given that he's is quite far behind. But you sort of have to make the decision whether to do a counter all-in, or whether to take a risk and actually expand a little bit to make sure you can catch up. and it looks as if, of course, that he's going to go for the expand. Notice that he doesn't have any drones on gas just at the moment, making sure that he's getting some more minerals out to make sure he can build a few more units, of course. The observer, as we can see, has just floated in here. Very passive, of course. Those guys don't like to start fights. He's just going to hang out here and check out what is going on. He's probably going to make sure he can see what tech is coming up from the Zerg once he gets his base re-established. And it looks as if one Zealot actually got a bit caught out there, coming along to this third base to check out if this was going down. And actually, he was just a tiny bit late. And now the expansion over here has started. So, as I said, good to see Kwon actually taking that third base there. If he can get the economy started up whilst holding off any attacks that may come from BattleMan, he certainly should be able to get back into the game. But it's just a matter of whether BattleMan actually commits to any attacks before then, because if he does, he will certainly put Kwon on the edge of defeat. And it looks as if he's going to go for the Colossus tech. Start to pump out some Colossus, which of course do great damage against the Zerglings and the Hydras, of course, which are the only units that Kwon actually has out for the moment. So we'll see if Kwon actually gets inside and actually spots what's going on here. As we can see, very little intel for Kwon here. Actually has no idea what is going on the inside, assumes the 4 gates are there, and can obviously assume that or knows that the robotics facility is there, of course, because there are a few observers hanging around the map. We actually have, this is a good intel gathering. I thought he had a couple more out, but BattleMan obviously has a very good presence there to actually know where he needs to put some of the observers. I'd love to see this one just floating around a little bit more to make sure he can spot what's going on, and perhaps to just float into the edge of this base just to see what Kwon is up to, and to try and figure out if he can actually get inside there and attack this base, because with the third going up, of course, Kwon has had to spend a lot of his materials on building up this base, and he's going to have to spend a lot more larvae actually rebuilding the drone count. And as we can see here, he's just starting to get the gas restarted as well. We'll probably see some drones over here switch into the gas. There we go. We got 2 going in here. Need another one, Mr. Kwon. There he goes, grabs that third one and gets inside. Puts a few inside this other one as well. One too many, but then takes the extra one out. So, where are we right now? Well, if we have a look at the the production tab right here, we've got a Colossus on the way, extended thermal lance, and the Dark Shrine is also being built, which is, where is that? Over here. Takes about 6 years to build a Dark Shrine, so this one's been going for quite a while now, and should be able to get some DTs running shortly, which will be really cool if you can send them around to expansions, hack up drones if there are any that are undefended by Overseers or perhaps the Spore Crawler and the Spine Crawler, and that'll actually start to readjust the favor back into the BattleMan's sort of base. So we'll see if he does anything like that. The current supply count, of course, as you can see, is currently sitting at 100 for BattleMan and 100 for Kwon, so he's certainly caught up a lot. But I think if the army, we have a look at the army tab, no, the army tab is actually doing quite nicely here. We've got 99 for Kwon, and he's got to contend with 106 of the Protoss army. As we can see here, some DTs have started to come out. We'll keep an eye on these guys and what they're up to, and I think we'll probably see one of them go across to the third expansion, and a couple of the others will go across to the natural. There we go. They are starting to move through now. There are no Overseer, or there is one Overseer just at the moment, beautifully positioned there by Kwon, so he'll be able to pick off these DTs beautifully there. Poked to death by the Spine Crawlers. I think there's bloody helicopter over my house, but I hope you guys can't hear that. But there is a DT now inside the third base there, and there are going to be 2 in a second here, and they are going to be able to take out some of these drones here, getting a few kills. 1 on this DT, and we've got 3 on this other one here. Taking out a couple more would be really cool for BattleMan, and he's going to get a couple of these lings as well, and one of the DTs escapes up into the high ground, and the main one that was inside gets taken out because the Overseer was here as well. Now this DT, this is pretty much a tactic which any Protoss should use if you are using your DTs. Try and hide a DT at an expansion. You can then either bring it back in here to actually take out some more drones or perhaps some units at this base, or you can of course deny this 4th expansion for going up. So we'll see if that's the plan from BattleMan. We do have a few more drones starting to transfer over here to the third base. We've got this one saturated quite nicely. As you can see here, the drone count is now, the worker count is now actually favoring Kwon. He's actually up to 63 against 59 probes, but as we can see here, the tech is definitely favoring BattleMan for the moment. So we'll see what Kwon is going to be up to next. He's got a Roach Warren on the way. We do have 2 Evo chambers going. We're going to have +2 to weapons done soonish, and +1 to ground. Carapace will be done soon as well. Got a lot of Hydras here. We do hear the sounds of a DT hacking away. Takes out a couple of the Zerglings there, but then is just easily disposed of by those Zerglings and the Queen, which is just hanging out here for some reason. Corruptors are on the way for Kwon, so he's definitely going to have a counter to the Colossus, which are going to start pumping out in great number, as you can see on the production tab. Another one is on the way, and some Void Rays also on the way. So we're going to see that that laser death ball started up from BattleMan. Of course, as we mentioned earlier on in this particular VOD, we're talking about the differences in the play styles. Now, obviously, I'm not sure if it's an actual region difference in the play style, but of course, as we can see here, BattleMan went for that 4-gate a little bit earlier, and of course, his tech into the Colossus Void Ray is a lot later than what we saw in that other game which I had cast. So it's just something a little bit different there. So I'm not actually sure if that's just a regional difference or if that's actually something just pretty much based off the 4-gate. But Kwon is actually doing a great job taking bases here. He's doing what many Zerg need to do. A lot of low-level Zergs, you'd be a bit afraid of taking some expansions, but I'll tell you what, when you actually can put up a hatchery just for the cost of 300 minerals, it's worth just taking a shot. If you can get these sort of a little bit more riskier expansions up and running, it'll be well within your favor to get them going. And of course, a Zerg never wants to be behind on bases or even on bases against Terran or Protoss. So it's good to get these 4th and the 5th up and running if you can. A DT looks like it's going to come inside here and perhaps deny this one. May be able to get inside and stop this, but I think he will be able to, in a second DT across to the 4th expansion as well. Looks like Kwon's going to respond, bringing in all of his forces across to this expansion. Going to save this one first. The Overseer speed is also done. Just keep that in mind. Look how fast these guys are once they have their speed upgrade, because they can move straight across the map very quickly here. The DT actually getting some good hits off on this hatchery, but it looks as if he will be countered there and does a good job. Now, the 4th base here, we do see that this DT actually it didn't actually deny that 4th expansion down here at the side. I suppose technically it's a 6th expansion, but it did come back down here, took out some drones. So that's just some forward thinking there from BattleMan, making sure that he can perhaps deny the expansion or kill off some drones. And it looks as if he's going to expand behind this DT pressure as well, taking this 4th base down at the 8 o'clock position, and if he can get that up, he'll be in a good spot. Of course, as we mentioned, he was in a good spot because of the tech, but that's now starting to even out a little bit because the Corruptors will be starting to come out in numbers. Looks as if Spine Crawlers are coming out in numbers as well. These guys are probably going to move into the middle of the map, providing a little bit of extra defense for the Zerg side of the map. We'll probably see. I'd probably just chuck 2 of them down at the expansions to make sure that they're covered in case any further DTs come along, but we'll see what Kwon does. It looks as if he's going to actually put them in the middle to make sure that he can have some supporting static defense if he needs to retreat his forces across. Yeah, now keep an eye on these creep tumors. These have been doing a great job just slowly sifting through the map there. Placing these creep tumors is really good, making sure you can get the extra creep across the map. Recarpeting job is always fine and nice for your house. Of course, this actually allows the Hydras to be a lot better in their capability in combat. So if you can get the creep down, get your creep sort of heading over in this direction to the middle, and even inside your opponent's half of the map, that is actually really good, especially for your Hydras, because it'll make sure that they can move as fast as possible, because let's face it, without the creep, they are really slow. 6th base up and running now for Kwon, so he's got this going now. If we have a quick look at the economy tab, I like to call it the economy tab. I know it's called income, but it's economy for me. And we do see that these guys, whilst they've been very passive, they haven't really been powering along on the harvester count. Normally, at this point, I'd probably normally see the harvesters for Zerg probably sitting up around about 70 to 80 by now, but it looks as if Kwon's just sort of sat back a little bit, sitting at 54 drones for the moment. I know he has lost a ton of them through the DT attacks that have been coming around every now and then, but perhaps just pumping out a few more would be really good. They are both at 200, so of course we're going to see if these guys are going to engage. It looks as if it were to go down to a battle, I would say just at the moment, just looking at these forces here, there are a lot of Colossus, not too many Stalkers just for the moment. There's certainly a good deal of Stalkers here, but I'm not really sure if that's enough given the high count of Zerglings at the moment. So we'll have to see what happens here. I'd love to see the drop upgrade coming from Kwon. He can actually drop inside this 4th base of BattleMan, get a distraction going off, take out some of these cannons and the pylons, maybe some of the probes if he's lucky, and then perhaps proceed through the middle. But with these guys being very passive here, 5th base going up for BattleMan. If this goes up and it actually stays up, this will be a very, very good gain for BattleMan, and I'm not really sure what everyone is up to now. It's kind of a bit stagnant at the moment. There's no attacks going on anywhere, and as I said, the droning is a little bit low at the moment for Kwon, so we'll see if he pumps a few out. We do have a mothership on the way from BattleMan. He's going to get that out, and that is really going to help out his forces. There it comes, warping in, cloaking all buildings of course, and it also cloaks any units that are in its vicinity. And we will see how the battle pans out. Look at these upgrades coming along for BattleMan. He's got +2 to shields on the way, +3 to armor for ground and weapons as well. Charge is now done. Protoss air weapons is now on the way as well, and the armor as well. So we'll see if BattleMan can actually push in here. We do hear the sounds of a Night Swarm. I believe that is actually over here. Kwon actually pushing inside the main base, but it looks as if he's going to have to actually defend against an attack here. Getting a bit serious, so we'll remove the tabs. There we go. We've got a Colossus on the high ground. Mothership finally coming inside. Does not have enough energy for a Vortex just yet, but it will very soon. But as I said, the Corruptor count is very high here. Well, it's not very high, but the actual counters to the Corruptors, sorry, that's what I was looking for, is actually very low for BattleMan. So he's actually going to lose all of these forces here. Corruptors are going to do their job there, but some more Stalkers have been warped in. And we do see that, we'll call that one the 5th expansion go down for Kwon, and it looks as if BattleMan's going to push in a little bit further, taking out a lot of drones as we can see here. Going to need to be a little bit more careful with those drones to make sure he doesn't lose too many of those. But it looks as if a good option for BattleMan right now would be to push back just a little bit, just to make sure he doesn't commit too hard into the base. But it looks as if he's certainly going to give it a red hot go, actually pushing inside this 4th base, the 3rd base, sorry, of Kwon. And we'll see a huge force coming off to the side here for BattleMan. He's going to have to get a really good concave, but he's actually losing out here, losing his own concave, turning into this little ball that's actually stuck in this 3rd base here, and he's going to lose all these forces. The Hydra's doing great amounts of damage. Of course, they are 3-3, and the Corruptors cleaning up the rest of those Colossus as well. Hydras on the low ground are going to be having a bit to contend with these Stalkers, but it looks as if they should be able to, of course, with the Defender's advantage. Lots more units pumping out here from Kwon, and some transfuses going off there, which is really cool. Nice little bit of micro to make sure that the units aren't dying when they don't need to be, and a Queen, of course, in the battle there. Want to see what BattleMan is up to. He's got a DT that's going to move inside here. I was waiting for that. I was expecting that during the battle, but he is going to get inside here. He's going to be able to take out probably most of these drones that are at this expansion. Check out, we've actually got that the head of the Night Swarm actually inside the base. I don't think BattleMan actually cares just at the moment. What he's caring about is this this Zerg force that is moving through the middle. We got some Roaches, we got Hydras, we got Corruptors, we got everything. And we also have a DT killing off this hatchery, and this may actually get it. Where are the Overseers? We've got one Overseer over here. There are no others, but there it goes. There was actually one inside that little flock of units. My bad. But he does get taken out. The hatchery is quite low on health. But it'd be cool to see a snipe on this hatchery if BattleMan is up to it. But it looks as if he's been spending a little bit of his time actually getting out some of these units. And if we have a look at the production tab, we actually have carriers on the way. So carriers are the next step, of course, for the Protoss army. Once you've had a little bit of a laser death ball fight, you can actually switch across to carriers and then move in and start clearing out a lot of these Zerg units here. Now this particular attack force here from Kwon is perhaps a little bit too small to push in and attack, but it looks as if he's going to go in anyway. He's going to lose some of these ground units perhaps, but I think there's just way too many Roaches to actually stop the cannons there, and they will take all of those cannons out. The defense force starting to move in. There's also not really too much here from BattleMan either. He's actually coming inside. Some Stalkers are on the high ground along with a couple more cannons inside this 4th base, and they should be able to clear everything out. A carrier comes along, of course. The Queen down on the low ground and gets taken out, and we'll have to see if Kwon is up to this attack. As I said, I don't think there's enough here. The DTs are really ripping apart all of these units. If you have a look at the damage from the DTs, 60 damage per attack. That is to any sort of unit, so that is a really good bonus for BattleMan there, actually taking out this attack. and some more Zealots warp in, taking out the rest of these forces, I'd say, because they do have their +3, +2, and +3 as well. But it looks as if Kwon's actually, with his own bonuses there, are going to take out the rest of those forces. Pulling back, though, are the Corruptors, the Overseer, and a couple of Overlords as well. And we are going to see perhaps a little bit of a retreat from all of these forces, as you can see there. Now, if we have a look once again at the production tab, we actually have +2 to weapons and armor for all of their Protoss air units. So these carriers, once they get out, are going to be doing a great deal of DPS. As we can see, there are 5 of them out already. As we have a look, just a quick look here at the Interceptors, 6 damage per attack. They actually do 2 attacks. And of course, there are the plethora of interceptors which are inside all of these carriers as well. So there's going to be a lot of damage coming out from these carriers if BattleMan can actually move inside. Perhaps capitalize on the very low Zerg numbers for the moment. If we have a quick look at the economy tab, both these players have powered up a little bit again on the workers. We do have 69 drones out for Kwon at the moment. He's got 61 probes in his opponent's side of the map. We've got this 4th base still not fully saturated, not too worried about that just at the moment. What I'm worried about is actually if this one is going to stay up for too long, because I suspect there may be an attack coming from Kwon, but we'll see what happens. And there it is, Broodlords. So I was just going to say, wondering where the Broodlords are, but he does have a few of them warping in. Warping in? They're morphing in, aren't they? That's the word. There they are, it's morphing in. He's going to have 5 of them, it looks like. In total, we're going to have 5 Broodlords hanging around in this little group of units. And once some more gas comes along, oh no, he's actually fine on gas. It's actually minerals that was the problem for Kwon. So he's going to need to get a few more minerals up and pumping so he can get some more Broodlords out. And if he can, this will prove a decent attack force. It should be able to move across, perhaps take out this base here. And if he can get this one as well, that'd actually be a really good thing to capitalize on, is the fact that this is a little bit exposed. If you have a look at the positionings here, Broodlords can sit up on top of this cliff, they can sit off to the side over the little river here with these weird flying things in them, and you can actually do a lot of damage with the Broodlords. So we'll see what Kwon is going to get up to here. If we have a quick look again at the production tab, +3 to air weapons is now in progress, +3 to armor is also on the way. I tell you what, I've probably never seen +3 to armor in a game I've casted, or probably in a game I've played either, but we do have an attack coming in here from Kwon. He's going to get this base. He's definitely going to get it. A little bit of chrono left on this Nexus here. Probably want to chuck that down on whatever he can, but it looks like he's not going to be able to, because it does go straight down. Phoenix coming in, actually just saying hi, and then dying straight away to the Hydras, and a carrier also doing the same thing. But the carriers here, there is certainly a great amount of carriers. We've got 7 in total. One's about to go down. A little bit of micro wouldn't go astray from BattleMan here. Perhaps pushing the carriers there up on the cliff would be great, but it looks as if he's going to have to contend with the fact that Roaches are now starting to push inside his base. The Broodlords are also doing a lot of damage to these Stargates. If they can take them out, that will actually be really good for Kwon, and the Broodlords are taken out for the loss of 1 Stargate. It looks as if a 2nd Stargate is also going to go down from the Roaches in just a second. And there it goes, and he's going to try and hack away at the rest of these Stargates. A couple more carriers, of course, have just popped out, building a few interceptors there, and we'll see if Kwon has any method of escape here, but I don't think he does. These Roaches are going to go down because the Roaches can't shoot air. They were bred the wrong way in the Zerg spawning pool, I think. But Kwon, let's just have a look back at the scale of the game right now. We do see just a couple of Corruptors just sitting around getting picked off there. And if we have a quick look, we now have a grand total of 7 carriers here with full counts of interceptors, as you can see there by that fast little shooting there that the interceptors do. They do have the graviton catapult, which increases the DPS they do on their first blast. Of course, with some extra micro, you can actually make sure that you get a target down, so you can actually start target firing certain units and actually taking them out very quickly with your whole group of carriers. But back to what we were talking about just before, we have a decent economy from both players still going. Gas is starting to get a little bit low on the on BattleMan's account. He does not have probes inside this this assimilator here. He's only got 1 inside this one here, and these ones are starting to get a little bit low as well, so he's going to lose those very shortly. So this is the point of the game where we switched into the mode where, as a player, you need to start thinking about efficiency. You need to start thinking about making the most of your units that you have, And I think Battleman's got the right idea here. He's going for Archons. Now, Archons are a great unit late game for Protoss against Zerg. They do a massive 47 damage against biological units, of course, and they do have 350 shields along with the 10 health. Now, there's no ghosts, so of course the shields are very, very vital in the usage there for the Archons, of course. The thing that Kwon's going to need to do is, of course, as we can see here, getting a great deal of Corruptors out to try and perhaps snipe out some of those carriers. I'd love to see him actually just try and poke in perhaps and see if he can pick off some of the carriers, but it looks as if he's going to sort of sit in this standoff position for the moment. And both these players, keep in mind, the reverse smiley face has not been taken. It's a very bit of a contentious place to go in there, but it looks as if we've got a battle. We'll get back to the smiley face base in a minute. There we do have roaches, and we've got some hydras that have been taken out now. The Corruptors are starting to get taken out themselves. Archon's doing a great deal of damage there, cleaning up a lot of those roaches. It looks as if pretty much all of the Zerg ground forces are going to go down in a second. Their DT's also helping out, removing the hydras there, slicing them apart like it's a kitchen special. And we do see that whole force actually be decimated there by the carriers with their massive damage. The 8 damage now because they do have the +3 to air weapons. And we do have, of course, the Archons, which did a lot as well. So the tables have certainly turned into the favor of Battleman right now. He's in a very bad position. Kwon, sorry, he's in a bit of a bad position here. He's going to need to pump out a lot of units to make sure he can counter if Battleman actually attacks. But the problem is he's starting to get a little bit low on gas. He's starting to get a little bit testy there. Obviously, he's lost a lot of these extractors. They've lost all of their the gas that's inside them. I'm not really sure how you run out of gas like that, but I guess it's how we work in the real world as well. But we got a warp prism here. I actually wanted to see this get into action here. I haven't actually seen it warp in anything, but it would be pretty cool if it does. But speaking of cool things, the smiley face base, which has now actually been turned into just a happy face, I think, because there's just the just that smile there, and now Battleman has actually put some eyes on it, so that's kind of cool. And he's going to take this one. If he can secure this and actually hold that down for a while, along with this 5th base as well, he's going to be laughing all the way to the win. And we'll see if he can certainly do that, because I think it is well within his grasp right now with his massive count of the 6 carriers. Or it's not that massive anymore, but it was before, and of course they do a lot of damage. So he's not got too much to contend with on the Zerg front. We've got a DT just coming in here, hacking away at some of these units that were here, taking out some of those Zerglings and some of the drones that I believe were there. The Warp Prism, this Warp Prism still just hanging out here. Not actually sure if that's to spot anything or not. I think he's actually forgotten about it. He doesn't actually have it grouped, as you can see here on the control bar. But we're going to see if Kwon has anything up his sleeve to counter this Protoss force, which is probably just going to get larger and larger and harder to stop as this game starts rolling on. A lot of Zerglings are out. Perhaps some Banelings, I'm not really sure, just some Banelings to take out these ground units. You can sort of assume that there may be a lot of Stalkers coming soon, but we'll see if he can do anything to counter it. The one problem he's got to deal with is these carriers. If he can take the carriers out, he'll be in a decent spot and he can perhaps counter-attack. But as we can see here, we've got a mothership on the way. We've got Protoss shields level 3 also on the way, and that is going to probably sign the victory there for Battleman. Once that gets done, once the mothership comes out, he'll be able to start moving around quite safely, and he'll be able to start taking out expansions. Because if we look at it from the economy scale, we've actually got just this expansion here. We've got an expansion here which actually does not have too many minerals left over, but no drones as well, of course. And this one here at the inner 1 o'clock position as well. But we do have an attack coming in. The Zerglings have decided it is time to get it on, and they have come inside, taking out very little of this Protoss force. Of course, the DTs, as we mentioned, doing that 60 damage, which is huge to the Zerglings. Of course, it takes out the Zerglings in one shot. The Zealots are also doing a great deal of damage as well. The Corruptors trying to do what they can, putting down some corruption on top of these carriers. He has actually done a good job of taking out the carriers. There are only 2 left. 1 left now, and it looks as if he will be fought back, but I think he's certainly done a great deal of damage there. The issue is whether he can actually resupply that. If we have a quick look at the production tab, we've got 20 roaches on the way. We've got 26 Zerglings. We also have the Flyer Carapace level 3 is on the way. Not really sure what the point of that was, if he's not actually going to get a few more Broodlords or Corruptors on the way, but I don't know. It's not me. It's up to him. but we'll see if BattleMan starts to move in for the win here. I think with these extra Archons that he's warped in here, the Mothership providing obviously a lot of air support with the cloak and the extra damage that the Mothership does. Of course, the Mothership doing a huge 9 per Purifier beam, which is a total of 6 attacks at a range of 7, which is quite huge, of course, to the Zerg forces. And it looks as if Kwon is aware of this base up here, knows that there's a couple of cannons up there. He's probably going to try and give it a shot at taking it out. If he can, that'll be good, but seriously at this point here where it's just a bit of a losing battle here for Kwon. Unfortunately for him, he's played great all game, but just going to start getting ripped apart by this Protoss Death Ball containing the carrier, containing Archons, Stalkers, and a Mothership here up at the side. And I think once we see some warping in, actually there's no pylon here, so he won't have any resupply straight away, but he certainly can warp in some more units. And I think the carrier will obviously, oh, he's got the burrow. So burrow actually coming to the save there of the roaches from Kwon. So Kwon getting away to fight another day with those roaches, but this base still stands. He only took out a few cannons, took out a few zealots, maybe some other ground forces there. But this is what we're going to see here, the very slow death march from BattleMan here. It can just start to roll through all of the bases, of course, protected by the cloak and protected by the carrier doing a lot of damage that it does. DTs coming along as well. It looks as if BattleMan is going to start cleaning up the rest of these forces. The Mothership is going to need to be a bit careful, perhaps micro that back a little bit or put down a Vortex, because this is in trouble. And there we go, actually putting down the Vortex a little bit late there, just vortexing his own units, but there's no Archon toilet. Just remember, guys, of course, this is after the patch where the units were able to jump inside the Vortex and then just smash through any Zerg units that were inside. So that has actually been removed, so you can't actually do that anymore unless you have some very good micro and a lot of force fields, because you can do it that way. But if we have a quick look at the economy tab, where's that warp prism gone? I think it actually got killed. But if we have a look and see here, we are actually lower on drones for Kwon, and the probe count is just starting to get up there, of course, which helps out. This base is going to go down shortly, I would assume. It looks as if this was the one that was actually rebuilt a couple of times. The DT took it out, and now a Zealot has finally taken out, probably for the last time. I doubt that base is going to get rebuilt, because we do have this huge force starting to group up here. Going to move in for an attack, taking out a lot of these Hydras there. That is probably going to be the end of it, I would suspect, because we are starting to get to that point there where Zerg just has no way to counter that sort of Protoss force, given the situation. The upgrades, that sort of thing, just all come into effect there when you are trying to counter this Protoss Death Ball at the end of a game, when there are carriers, motherships, stalkers, DTs, Archons, and Zealots. So just waiting to see what Kwon is up to. He might be having a go at trying to take this expansion here. There are a couple of DTs, which will keep an eye on things. A Warp Prism is over here, which is very cool. Loving the Warp Prism action this game. There's been one and it's done absolutely nothing, but this one has actually come to the aid of protecting this base, and we'll see what happens, because there are just these drones here. These are the only mining units, or I suppose you got this one over here, but that's about to run out, and then Kwon will be out of the game, getting a little bit of an idea here for Blizzard. The Corruptors need a buff, and we get an agreement there from BattleMan, of course. Corrupt is probably the one unit in this game that have sort of held it out this long, being able to snipe out some of the carriers, sniped out the first mothership that came inside. But as we can see, DT is starting to hack away at these units, and they will be removing most of those drones, lowering that drone count to a measly 43 at this end of the game, but finally they get taken out. So, things to consider from this game, of course. I know I do sound like I'm wrapping it up, but it is sort of getting towards the end of this game. Obviously, that first attack by BattleMan actually did a great deal of damage there. Took out the natural expansion and took out a lot of the drones that were there as well, along with the Queen, setting him in a good position. And then he actually came back. He came back here, played safe, took the natural expansion of his own, and then played safe from that point, because he was certainly in a good position with his tech, with his economy. And Kwon was just a little bit caught out by that attack. So as you can see, this mothership and this group of units, there are a grand total of 14 Archons in this group. Now, remember what I said before, they do 47 damage to biological units, so that's, well, that's every Zerg unit, because as far as I know, there is no robot Zerg unit just as of yet. Perhaps in the expansions we'll get one. They might infest some sort of robot unit. Maybe there'll be an infested Goliath. That'd be cool. But the final thrust here, coming from BattleMan, pushing inside this third base, which is going to go down. He's going to probably come up here and clean this one out, and I would suspect we're going to be at the end of the game shortly. So hopefully you guys all liked this particular game. Of course, I have been doing a lot of these longer games lately. It has been a lot of fun doing these sorts of games, and we do see this base getting cleaned out there. Look at all that damage that these guys do. They do so much damage, and as we can see, there's even a few actually caught out down here at the bottom. But BattleMan's going to need to probably clean up this base before we get a GG from Kwon. He's doing what he can to try and reinforce all of his units, but if we have a quick look at the actual unit count here, we've actually got just a total of 7 Hydras, 3 Lings, 16 Roaches, and 8 Corruptors. It's definitely not enough to contend with this attack force is just coming in here. This one lonely carrier, which has been there from the start of the carrier production, is doing a good job providing that air support. The mothership coming inside is going to go down, but is going to see that there are just way too many units to contend with here. Just sort of biding time, perhaps trying to calm down from this bit of a loss here, which is a bit unfortunate for Kwon. There's the GG, and we are going to see this game finish up. So great play by Kwon to actually come back from actually losing his natural expansion and a lot of drones and the Queen, of course, as we mentioned before, to come back and bring it all back and try and contend with this Protoss, which has been doing a great job of rolling all over this this map here. And there we go. So he's actually not GGing. He thinks he may have a chance. You know, he might be able to send the drones in. The drones might be able to take out these Archons, because of course the drones, as we can see, have a huge 40 health. They'll go down in one shot, not to mention the splash damage from the Archons there. But the natural will go down for the second time this game, and that is probably going to be it, I would assume. So obviously, as I said, things to take from this game, of course, that early 4-gate attack, which did a great job for BattleMan, and his just willingness to come back and not overcommit to the attack. Of course, as we saw at the start of the game, there are a lot of spine crawlers which are inside for Kwon, defending against the 4-gate if it was continuing to pressure in. And there's the GT, K now I am lol. It's a great game there between these two guys. Some great play from BattleMan to get that 4-gate going and then not be overcommitted to it, because of course he was aware that there was some defense up from Kwon. And as I said, a great little comeback there from Kwon at the start of the game to get back inside the game and give it all he had to actually try and take out this Protoss player. But in the end, just falling a bit short in his actual attacks there. I think perhaps there were a few times where there were some of the attacks which may not have been the greatest idea, because his attack forces were actually a little bit too low. But we'll see what happens later on. We'll see if anyone else has any games. If you do, make sure you send them through to me at duckphillol@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to have a look. And if there's something to learn, if there's something very cool to see, I'll definitely give it a cast, and hopefully we'll get some more games going soon. Cheers.